Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast. Today is Thursday, November 14th, 2019. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's NBA, college basketball, and NHL games, as well as college football. Look ahead to all tonight's games. Thursday night football. News on James Weisman from Memphis that we'll get into. NFL power rankings. The MVPs in each league will be announced tonight in baseball. And my best bet of the day. All right, we're going to start in the NBA tonight. There was an interesting slate last night, and we're going to go through the results, some surprises, some blowouts. Magic over the 76ers, 112-97. Orlando's 4-7, Philly 7-4. Nick Vucevic had 25, Josh Richardson had 19. Grizzlies over the Hornets, 119-117. Grizzlies 4-7, Charlotte 4-7. John Morant had 23, including the game winner, and Terry Rozier had 33. Celtics over the Wizards, 140-133. I got backdoored there at the end. I took the 8, and I got backdoored, so I lost that one. Boston's 9-1. That's 9 straight wins for the Celtics since their season-opening loss against Philadelphia. Washington is 2-7. Kemba Walker had 25. Bradley Beal, 44. Rockets over the Clippers, 102-93. The Rockets are 8-3. The Clippers are 7-4. James Harden, 47. Kawhi Leonard, 26. Timberwolves over the Spurs, 129-114. The Timberwolves are 7-4. San Antonio's 5-6. Andrew Wiggins had 30 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. So, looks like he's on his way to a career year finally. And DeMar DeRozan had 27. Lakers over the Warriors, 120-94. This was the other best bet I had. Lakers 9-2, Golden State 2-10. LeBron James at 23, D'Angelo Russell at 21. Raptors over the Trailblazers 114-106. The Blazers lost a few in a row. Toronto 8-3, Portland 4-8. Rodney Hood 25, Pascal Siakam 36. 6 games tonight on the docket. At 6 o'clock you have the Heat at the Cavs. 8 o'clock TNT, Mavericks, Knicks. On the call this game, probably Marv Albert and Chris Webber. The return of Kristaps Porzingis. He's going to be booed as loudly, or if not louder, than LeBron James was back in Cleveland and Kevin Durant was back in Oklahoma City. It's going to be hectic at the Garden. There's going to be a lot of negative chants. I think that Kristaps Porzingis won't play well. He's not equipped, in my opinion, to overcome negative and adversity, and I just really don't feel good about him going into this game because of every time he touches the ball, you're going to be hearing a shower of boos coming from the crowd. And granted, they've been booing the team all season long for their poor performance, especially at home. They're 1-3 at home, but you're never going to hear louder boos ever at Madison Square Garden. Ever, ever, ever. And that said, I think the Knicks will actually win this game tonight outright. They're a 7.5-point underdog. They're going to win the game outright. And I think they could potentially win this game by double digits. This might have even blowout potential. The Mavericks are a 2-man team. We learned that through the first couple weeks of the season. They lost at home to the same Knicks team 6 days ago. So why can't they lose at Madison Square Garden? So the Knicks are going to win. I think they're going to win something like 115-105. Maybe they pull away late. Like I said, a lot of nasty chants at Porzingis. And I think he's probably going to shoot like 6 for 20, 5 for 18 with 5 rebounds and no assists. Like, I think he's going to have a terrible game. Luka Doncic, if the Mavericks are to win this game, Luka Doncic has to win it on his own. And I think that this is going to distract the team, and I think that the Knicks will play inspired basketball and win this game outright, just like they did in Dallas on Friday night. So give me the Knicks as the underdog special of the night in the National Basketball Association. You also have the Clippers at the Pelicans, the return of Paul George. Bucks host the Bulls. 9 o'clock, the Hawks at the Suns. 10:30 TNT, the Nets at the Nuggets. Nuggets giving 8.5. Will Caris LeVert be back for Brooklyn this game? Who knows? That was a really somewhat impressive performance and a losing effort by Brooklyn in Utah the other day. They're sitting there at a disappointing 4-6 on the season. I think they dropped the 4-7, but I do think that there's a chance they cover in this game. Normally teams don't really play well in Denver. It's hard to play well in Denver because of the altitude. I think that Nikola Jokic is a bad matchup for the center combo for Brooklyn, DeAndre Jordan and Jared Allen. Who knows what LeVert's status is. If LeVert plays, I give the Nets a chance to win this game outright, but I don't think LeVert's going to play. But if he does, I think the Nets will hang in the game but come close to winning, just like they did in Utah without the services of Caris LeVert. So give me the Nuggets to win. I think they'll cover, but barely. I'm going to say the Nuggets will win this game like 127 to 116 or something like that. I think it's going to be a very high-scoring affair out in Denver tonight. Now we're going to go to the NHL. We're going to go over the results from last night and look ahead to tonight's slate. Only 5 games last night. Senators over the Devils 4-2. Ottawa is 7-10-1. NJ 5-8-4. Number 1 started the game with a hat trick, Juan Gabriel Pageau. Number 2 started the game with 21 saves on 25 shots, Mackenzie Blackwood. And the number 3 started the game with the goal, Wayne Simmons. Islanders over the Maple Leafs 5-4. John Tavares is now 0-3 at the Coliseum since he left to go to the Maple Leafs. The Islanders go to 13-3-1. Toronto 9-7-4. Number 1 started the game with 2 goals, Anthony Beauvillier. Number 2 started the game with a goal and 2 assists, Derek Brassard. Number 3 started the game with a goal and assist, Matthew Barzal. Capitals over the Flyers 2-1 in a shootout. The Capitals are 14-2-4. Philly 10-5-3. Number 1 started the game with 35 saves on 36 shots. Carter Hart. Number 2 started the game, didn't have a point, but played very well, and he scored in the shootout. Evgeny Kuznetsov. And number 3 started the game with 30 saves on 31 shots, Braden Holtby. So credit Philadelphia for staying in that game. That game lived up to the hype between 2 good teams, and I was right about Washington winning the game and Philly earning the loser point. Stars over the Flames 3-1. The Stars are 9-8-2. Calgary 10-8-3. Number 1 started the game with 29 saves on 33 shots. Cam Talbot, I misdid the math. Number 2 started the game with the goal for the Dallas Stars, Justin Dowling. And the number 3 started the game with 2 goals, Joe Pavelski. Blackhawks over the Golden Knights 5-3. An impressive win for Chicago on the road. 7-7-4, so they're back to 500. Vegas 9-8-3. Number 1 started the game with a goal and 2 assists, Patrick Kane. Number 2 started the game with a goal and 2 assists, Dylan Strome. Number 3 started the game with an assist, Alex Tuch. Now we'll look ahead to tonight's slate. 7 o'clock, you have the Rangers at the Lightning. Both these teams have 18 points. Who would have thought that the Rangers and Tampa Bay would have the same number of points on November 14th? Like, you would have thought Tampa Bay would be near the likes of Washington. Rangers are about where I thought they'd be, maybe a little better, but they're right around where I thought they'd be. They probably should have 19 points, or even 20, because I think there's 2 games they probably should have won that they got the loser point in. The game against Arizona, or you could argue they could have won those games against Arizona and Florida. The Lightning certainly underachieving so far. Hurricanes at the Sabres. Both these teams have been very good, especially Buffalo. They've been a pleasant surprise. Carolina has pretty much replicated what they've done last year. Jets at the Panthers. Panthers playing well. Winnipeg, right around where I thought they'd be. 8 o'clock, Coyotes, Wild. Wild are among one of the worst teams. The Coyotes have been a nice surprise early on. 9 o'clock, Avalanche at the Oilers. The Oilers have been a pleasant surprise. Avalanche are right around where I thought they'd be at this point. And that's credit to Edmonton. Edmonton, because I wouldn't have expected them to have more points than Colorado at this point, but here we are. 10 o'clock, Stars at the Canucks. Stars playing well after a slow start. Canucks have been very good. Sharks, Ducks. Sharks have been underachieving. Got the big win against Edmonton the other day. Ducks have been overachieving. And in 10:30, the Red Wings at the Kings, two of the worst teams in the league, just like I expected. College basketball. We're going to go through the results and look ahead to tonight's busy slate. So, without further ado, here we go. UMBC over St. Mary's, Maryland, 79-57. James Madison over Shenandoah, 96-48. VCU upsets, or not really. Number 23, LSU, 84-82. It wasn't an upset because VCU was favored. I should know that. Number 16, Ohio State over number 10, Villanova, 76-51. Ohio State was favored in this game, so that wasn't an upset either, but it was a resounding win for them for sure. IUPUI over South Florida, 70-53. That's a bad loss for South Florida. Fordham over Fairleigh Dickinson, 53-50. George Mason over Long Island, 80-74. Penn over LaSalle, 75-59. Columbia over Binghamton, 75-63. Vermont over Boston University, 62-47. Bucknell over Hofstra, 86-71. Ohio over Iona, 81-72. Wisconsin over McNeese, 83-63. Boston College over High Point, 59-33. Syracuse over Colgate, 70-54. Virginia Tech over South Carolina Upstate, 80-57. Wake Forest over UNC Asheville, 98-79. St. Joe's over UConn, 96-87. Brown over Quinnipiac, 70-68. Bryan over St. Peter's, 69-44. Lafayette over Princeton, 72-65. Old Dominion over Loyola Maryland, 62-53. NJIT over Cornell, 59-58. Albany over Canisius, 83-57. St. Francis, Pennsylvania over Morgan State, 71-65. Miami of Ohio over Purdue Fort Wayne, 84-80. Samford over Virginia Weiss, 102-64. Middle Tennessee over Mars Hill, 96-82. Stephen F. Austin over Niagara, 89-80. Number 4, Louisville over Indiana State, 91-62. Number 11, Texas Tech over Houston Baptist, 103-74. Kansas State over Monmouth, 73-54. Tennessee Martin over Western Illinois, 98-91. St. Louis over Eastern Washington, 82-60. Ball State over UIC, 67-48. Nichols over Paul Quinn, 86-66. Grambling over Southeast Louisiana, 81-70. Drake over UMKC, 76-58. Northern Iowa over Cal State Bakersfield, 67-55. Rutgers over Drexel, 62-57. Cal State Fullerton over Wyoming, 60-53. New Mexico over Green Bay, 93-78. Oklahoma State over Charleston, 73-54. BYU over Southern Utah, 68-63. Marquette over Purdue, 65-55. Northwestern upsets Providence, 72-63. Good bounce-back win for Northwestern after losing to Merrimack. Colorado State over Omaha, 80-65. NC State over FIU, 86-77. San Diego State over Grand Canyon, 86-61. Tonight's slate is actually smaller than I thought. Tomorrow night, I think, is the busy night. Yeah, tomorrow's the busy day, not really today. 6 o'clock, UC Davis and Idaho. That's a neutral site game from, I believe, it's in Arkansas. It's at Arkansas State's arena. St. Francis, Brooklyn, Longwood. Fox Sports 1, Penn State, Georgetown. Georgetown's a 2.5-point favorite at home. I think they'll get it done at home. I don't trust Pat Chambers' team, although Chambers' team has the best player on the court in this game. But ultimately, Georgetown's the better team. Home crowd's going to be into it, so I'm going to say that Georgetown wins the game by 7 points. 7 o'clock on ESPN2, Towson at number 15, Florida. This is a nice bounce-back spot for the Gators, in my opinion. Although Towson is not a terrible team from the CAA. Morehead State Presbyterian, Siena Harvard, Michigan Dearborn in Eastern Michigan. Indiana, Kokomo, and Evansville. UL Monroe, Mississippi State. Vanderbilt, Richmond. Alabama A&M, Cincinnati. Southern Miss, North Florida. Winthrop, East Tennessee State. Southwest Baptist, Little Rock at 7:30. 8 o'clock, San Jose State, number 19, Arizona. Arizona should have no issue there. 8:30, Fox Sports 1. Number 3, Michigan State at number 12, Seton Hall. Big game for these two schools. It sucks that Miles Powell's not playing for Seton Hall, or else I would have taken Seton Hall to win the game outright. Because he's not there, I think he's worth a couple points. So I'm going to say that Michigan State wins and covers. The Pirates will hang in this game, but I just don't see them winning or covering because of the absence of Miles Powell. I think he's the most valuable player between these two teams, as good as Cassius Winston is, but Michigan State has more depth than Seton Hall does. And Jeff Maglicetti and I talked about this on the podcast the other day, that without Miles Powell, it's just such a hard task for the Pirates to go out and upset the Spartans. I won't be flabbergasted if Seton Hall found a way to cover and win the game, but I just think that the absence of Powell will hurt them. Cassius Winston will lead the way after the passing of his brother. I think he has a lot of heart and will play a big game in honor of him. So giving Michigan State the win and cover, and I think they win this game like 78-70 or something like that. VMI against Arkansas State, the second game of the Red Wolves Classic. 9 o'clock, Montana Western and Idaho State. Southern New Mexico State, San Diego and Weber State. 10 o'clock, Long Beach State and number 18, St. Mary's. Pacific Union against Pacific, and Central Connecticut State against Arizona State on the Pac-12 network. College football last night, there were only a few games. Maction, obviously. One blowout and one competitive game. Miami of Ohio defeats Bowling Green 44-3. Miami of Ohio currently leading the East Division right now. They are 6-4. Bowling Green State 3-7. Northern Illinois upsets Toledo 31-28. Northern Illinois 4-6. Toledo 6-4. So if Northern Illinois wins out, they get a bowl. So Northern Illinois still has something to play for down the stretch. 2 games tonight on the slate. We have Buffalo against Kent State. Kent State's getting 5.5. The over-under is 56. I'm going to take Kent State to cover the point spread, but I think Buffalo probably wins the game. I won't be surprised at all if Kent State wins, but I just think this is a closer game than the point spread suggests. And Kent State's been a good home team this year, so give me Kent State plus 5.5, but I think Buffalo wins on the field. 8 o'clock ESPN, North Carolina at Pitt. Pitt's giving 40, over-unders 50.5. I'm taking the Panthers -4. Pitt is better than North Carolina, and I think North Carolina is overvalued because of the good start they had to the season and because Mac Brown's their coach. So give me Pitt -4, and I think they win this game like 33-24 or something like that. So the over would be another wise play if you think that a push could be in play. Now I'm going to talk about the James Weisman incident. There is news today that Weisman has been ruled ineligible by the NCAA. Weisman has withdrawn from his lawsuit, and then he was declared ineligible and will be withheld from competition while awaiting reinstatement. This is a big loss for Memphis, and I think that while he's out, that there could be games that if he's was there, then they'd probably win easily. And I think his absence can cost them some games. They have a game against NC State, which is their toughest game over the next few weeks or so. And I saw a projection that they only now have a 20-something% chance to win that game without James Weisman. So that's pretty huge. I think that if he's out during conference play, then that'd be an even bigger deal. And there'd be a lot of games in conference play that are no gimmies. Like, Temple should be okay in that conference. Houston was very good last year. Cincinnati's always a good team, but they don't have McCronin anymore, obviously. UConn lost a bye game, so they may not be as good as we thought. Then there's some other teams in this conference that are certainly threats to potentially pick off Memphis, especially with Memphis as the visiting team, and especially now without Weisman in the fold. So we'll see how this goes. If you asked me right now if Memphis will definitely make the tournament, I'm going to say they'll most likely make it, but it's not a lock like everybody thought it was before the season. Because if they lose a random bye game, and if they lose to NC State, and then they lose some conference road games without Weisman, then who knows? Maybe they're sitting on the bubble. So I'm not going to rule out the possibility of them missing the NCAA tournament entirely because of this Weisman thing, and it's going to become a distraction to that team. It was clearly a distraction in their game against Oregon. And I think that there's going to be really big pressure on this team to go out and perform well while Weisman is ineligible. Now I'm going to do my NFL power rankings for this week. I forgot to do them last week. So we'll see how this shakes out. But I wish I did them last week, or else it would have been very different. Number 32, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. They're easily the worst team in the league. 31, the Miami Dolphins. I think that Jets win, they earn. But let's face it, they beat the Colts because Adam Vinatieri's washed up and Brian Hoyer was starting at quarterback. So they had no business winning that game. So that's why they're at 31. 30 is the Redskins. They're just dreadful. They could win this week. They're playing the Jets. 29 is the Giants. They just lost to the Jets and they haven't won a game since October. 28 is those Jets. They should be lower than this, but they beat the Giants, so I had to move them up. And then the fact that the Dolphins got a garbage win against a team that has a washed-up kicker and a quarterback that is no good right now in Brian Hoyer. They shouldn't have won that game and had no business winning that game. That's why I had to punish them, because they obviously lose that game if Brian Hoyer's not there. 27 is the Atlanta Falcons. They're a team that has underachieved this season. They beat the Saints last week, so they're at the bottom 5. 26 is the Denver Broncos. They are coming off a bye. I'm interested to see how they look. Joe Flacco's out for perhaps the rest of the year. Who knows? 25 is the Arizona Cardinals. They're a team that has really been competitive. I think Cliff Kingsbury's done a nice job with that team. 24 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They obviously got revenge over the Cardinals. I'm talking about Arians. And I'm interested to see how this team plays going forward, especially the quarterback. 23 is the Cleveland Browns, the most disappointing team in the league. They got a win over the overrated Bills the other day. 22 is the Jaguars. Nick Foles is coming back this week against the Colts. Number 21 is the Chicago Bears, the most disappointing team in the NFC this season. Mitch Trubisky is looking like a bust by the week. 20 is the Chicago Bears. The Los Angeles Chargers, who beat the Bears a few weeks ago and then lost to the Raiders on that Thursday night game. 19 is the Lions. Lions were an interesting team. No Matt Stafford's a big deal for them. I just think that they're fraudulent. 18's the Tennessee Titans. They had a nice win over Kansas City, but I think the team's fraudulent as well. Number 17 is the Indianapolis Colts. They certainly would have a better record if Jacoby Brissett wasn't hurt and if Adam Vinatieri wasn't old. 16 is the Buffalo Bills. I think this is the most fraudulent 6-3 or better team in the league, and it's not close. I won't be surprised if this team misses the playoffs. 15 is the Oakland Raiders. They are a team that has been one of the biggest surprises in the league this year. Derek Carr's playing very well. 14 is the Los Angeles Rams. This is one of the bigger disappointments in the league this year. Jared Goff has regressed this year, and that offensive line isn't as good as it was in years past. 13 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've been playing very good football. If they win tonight, that puts them in a really good position to make the playoffs. Number 12 is the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this team is personally a little overrated. Watch, they're going to go out and beat the Patriots on Sunday now that I said that. But Carson Wentz has played well at times this year. But my issue for the Eagles is their pass defense has been absolutely dreadful this year. And if they don't win the NFC East, I think the front office is to blame for not going out and improving that area at the trade deadline. Number 11 is the Carolina Panthers. They nearly won at Green Bay. Christian McCaffrey, I thought he was in to potentially get that game-tying touchdown there, which if they got a two-point conversion after, if they called that a touchdown, that would have been a tie game going into overtime. But no, they don't call it a touchdown. But this team is pretty good. 10's the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes came back last week and was hobbling around a little bit, but looked like though Patrick Mahomes with their issues on defense. 9 is the Dallas Cowboys. Very disappointing loss to the Vikings last week. I thought that they should have won that game, but their coach cost them down the stretch. 8 is the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks handed the Niners their first loss, and now they're in contention to win the NFC West again. Number 7 is the Houston Texans. Coming off the bye, they're playing the Ravens. I think they have a good chance to win that game outright. Number 6 is the Baltimore Ravens, who are coming off the dominating win over Cincinnati. I'm interested to see how they look against Houston. Obviously, the sexy quarterback matchup with Lamar and Deshaun. Number 5 is the Minnesota Vikings. They are a very good football team. They're a deep team. I think they have a chance to win their division. That was a really good win at the Cowboys. Number 4 is the Green Bay Packers. That was a good win over Carolina last week. Schedule has some tough games coming up, especially at the 49ers, and then they host the Vikings in a few weeks. Number 3 is the New Orleans Saints. They get punished because they lost to Atlanta. Number 2 is the San Francisco 49ers. They made my number 1 if they're still undefeated, but no, they lost to the Seattle Seahawks in overtime. And number 1, the New England Patriots, despite a loss. Right now, they're my number 1 team. People are going to yell at me and say they shouldn't be because they lost to the Ravens, but coming off a bye and a loss, you have to think that they're going to be prepared on Sunday. You just have to think that. So the Patriots are number 1 by default because pretty much I didn't want to put the Niners there coming off the Seattle loss. I can't put Green Bay there because they lost to the Chargers a few weeks ago. I can't put New Orleans there because they lost to the crappy Falcons. So the Patriots are there by default. At least their loss was against a good team in the Ravens. Now I'm going to pick tonight's game between the Steelers and the Browns, the AFC North teams going at it. The two teams that I thought were the best two teams in this division before the year, that's certainly not the case. The best team in this division is obviously Baltimore. Pittsburgh's done a nice job getting back into this thing. They're over 500 now at 5-4. Cleveland, meanwhile, sitting there at 3-6. If they win this game, they're still in this thing. If they lose, they're done, and Freddie Kitchens might be fired. So Cleveland is giving 3 points The over-under is 41.5. Oh, wait, it went down to 2.5. I am going to take the Browns minus the 2.5 just because it went down the half point. If it was at 3, I would have taken the under because I think this might have pushed written all over it. So I'm taking the Browns minus 2.5. Low scoring the game. I don't trust Mason Rudolph on the road. That's what it comes down to for me. And as good as I think the Steeler defense is to keep them in this game, my issue is Mason Rudolph. This isn't Pittsburgh. This is Cleveland. That crowd's going to be great. I just think that Rudolph on the road, don't trust it. And I'm taking the Browns here to win their second straight game and for Freddie Kitchens to save his job another week. So, final score, I'm going to say 20-16 Cleveland. Wouldn't rule out a push. All right. Best bet of the day brought to you by DraftKings. A couple interesting games to go with. We'll go with college basketball. I'm going to take Florida over Towson. I'm going to take Mississippi State over UL Monroe. East Tennessee State over Winthrop. St. Mary's over Long Beach State. That's a bounce back spot. We'll go to college football. We will take Pitt to beat North Carolina. We'll go to the NHL. We'll take the... I wanted to take the Lightning to beat the Rangers, but I think the Rangers have a good chance to win that game outright. So I'm going to avoid that. We'll go to the NBA. We'll take the Heat over the Cavs. I don't get why that line's only 4.5. But we'll take that. We'll take the Clippers and the return of Paul George. And we'll take the Bucks. We're not taking the Mavs because I think the Knicks are winning that game outright. We'll take the Suns and we'll take the Nuggets. We'll get this to 7-1, about just above it. Wagering $1, payout of $8.06. That's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything from college football, Thursday Night Football, NBA and NHL, and college basketball. Look ahead to the weekend, pick all the games. And by the way, before I go, MVPs, I think it's going to be Alex Bregman in the American League, and in the National League, I think it's going to be Cody Bellinger. So, hope you guys have a great day, everybody.